there was so much going on, when you think about 50 years of hip hop and what that looks like and all the milestones that are now celebrated. We were in the thick of it. And so I remember, particularly for Vibe, the idea around fashion and what we were wearing. And so you think about like Fat Farm or Cross Colors or some certain things. Years later, it was still evolving. And streetwear, which is now everywhere, was nowhere. It was only within our communities or, a younger demographic. And so really explaining that to partners why this is viable is insane to fast forwarding to now where the Pillsbury Doughboy is rapping. It's just
That's
it
right.
shakes your brain a little bit, because you're just like, oh, okay, now it's cool. Okay.
Welcome to Career Plug.
Hi, and welcome to Career Plug. Really excited about today's guest. But first, if you have not liked and subscribed, please do so. I am looking to bring great content to you guys around career exploration. There are a number of careers people don't know about. I am featuring guests that are in those careers and exposing us with advice, counsel, knowledge, and background. You guys should stop watching Channel Zero and start watching Channel Hero. I think I might rename this Channel Hero because we are rescuing folks. Stop watching that foolishness. Tune in to my channel. Anyway, again, today I have a special guest. I have Nicole Buchanan, Nikki B. She
Hi.
is there we go. She is the Senior Director, Head of Cultural Strategy, Multicultural of SXM Media, that is Cirrus and Pandora. I have known Nikki for a number of years. I really appreciate her getting on my platform very early. She is a busy woman. So, Nikki, first to start out, what are you plugged into these days? Listen, I know you have a young son, you travel a lot. So, what are you plugged into? You got like a sneaker collection, too, by the way.
I do. I do. I really love working in music because I can kind of lean into the kids. So, and then I have an 8-year-old, as you know. So I am really plugged into, well, first, God, I'm a prayer. So that's who I am. But anime is really big in my house right now. So, Halloween is coming up, got our costumes ready. And then I just came off the road from our HBCU tour. So, all things HBCU, all things Black and Black excellence. So I've spent a lot of time with that and just being able to lean into in Atlanta all the Black designers and Black owned businesses. It's just been amazing. So that's kind of coming off the road. That's what I'm into.
That is beautiful. Wow. Now, you did not attend an HBCU, but I love all the HBCU pride. I am with you. Did not attend an HBCU. Got into Morehouse, Howard, and Hampton, but fortunately, the PWIs gave me the most money, so had to end up going that route.
PWI. The PWI designation, I did not hear about that until much later in life. And I was like, it's so shady.
It
It's
is. It
so
is so
shady.
shamey.
Because they say it in front of us. They say it and
They
they
do.
know we don't know what
They
it
do.
is. And then one
They
day we
do.
ask and we're like, wait a minute, is that me? Am I the
It
PWI
is I.
person?
I
Anyway,
am him.
yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time.
So, sort of linking to that, where did your background start? You are a Midwest woman, born and raised, but if you could start by giving us a little bit of your background, leading up to your career. But I know you're from Chicago, so let you run with that.
Well, Chicago people lead with that. We are from Chicago. I don't care where I'm at. I am from Chicago. So I am from Chicago, born on the South Side, went to school on the West Side. So I feel like a bit of a, I feel like I can bridge all all arguments. I can kind of bridge all rivalries. But grew up on the South Side of Chicago. My parents were both working. My mom was a teacher, later principal, got her PhD in education and psychology. And then my dad was a managing director, first Black managing director at Marsh McLennan, did not have a college education, but went all the way to the top. So I have a very interesting family dynamic in that they were both firsts in a variety of ways, but also kind of just got after it. And so that kind of spirit has been in my family for a long time. Went to Whitney Young. We don't need to talk about what year. And then went
That's
on
right.
to Northwestern. And so, I've always kind of seen my parents as my heroes or of two of my heroes. And so just kind of mirrored myself after kind of their work ethic, but also work hard, play hard kind of mentality. And just really looked for experiences that really elevated how I lived. And so, whether it's to Whitney Young, tried out for the dance team, didn't make it, didn't stop, realized that my gift was the gift of gab, so went into student government. And then went into college, same thing, student government, but really kind of leaned into economics. Thought I was going to be a lawyer, a tax lawyer, actually. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that
I
is
actually thought it was gonna be I thought it was gonna be Jeff White. Yeah. I thought it
interesting.
was gonna be
That
tax
is
lawyer.
interesting.
And then got into then graduated, took a year off, just doing like events and working with an events crew in Chicago, and then got into insurance brokerage, and so became a broker for excess liability at Marsh McLennan, which was the company my dad used to work for. But I worked in wholesale initially, and so that's really where I kind of learned corporate America, but I knew probably by the fourth year that that wasn't what I wanted to do.
So that's interesting. This start out of Northwestern. And let me backtrack just a little bit because people think,
Mhm.
you have this really shiny position and role, and have
Mhm.
for a while, right? Like you travel,
Mhm.
you're in like the elite travel clubs of American Airlines. You got like a gazillion miles, right? So you have a lot of shiny things. You're around celebrities. You move and shake a lot. But I think sometimes people misunderstand that these things don't happen overnight. One, and then two, the backgrounds just aren't straight. There's no linear path. You
Mhm.
started out of Northwestern, a great school in insurance sales. That's just something I learned.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
what led you to start in advertising, kind of marketing?
Yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't a direct path, like you said. One of the reasons why I worked in insurance brokerage, and just to clarify for those who are listening, brokerage is more about risk management. And so I was doing a lot of like site calls. One of the funniest stories was going to a silo in Kentucky where we climbed up the side of the person's property, kind of looked in, saw all the seeds, just things that are not necessarily sexy, but it was just very adventurous. It was a really fun job. And what I loved about it was the idea of assessing the issue and then coming back to my partners with solutions and then selling it in. So that was really what I enjoyed about the role. And what I didn't enjoy was, the back end around the actuarial piece of it, where I was working with actuaries, fighting. I was fighting on behalf of my clients, which I enjoyed, but kind of some of the more meticulous, kind of sciencey number things I didn't enjoy as much as I thought of because just thinking I was an economics major, I thought that would be like easy enough. And so what I realized in that process, and I worked there for 4 years, and I worked on a variety of different accounts. I worked in K&R too, which is really important right now.
Oh,
Kidnap and ransom. I don't know if you've heard of it, Gene. Have you heard of K&R?
I have actually, yeah, from movies.
Yeah. So I was. Oh yeah. So I was the lead for K&R. So what I enjoyed about that was I would interface with like all these people who had these amazing stories about these how they got into kidnap and ransom, how they negotiated. So I just knew that I was a very much a people person. I knew that I love selling. And so when I started to look for a new role, And I thought it was smart to kind of move around a little bit, particularly early in my career. And I knew I was getting to a level where they were going to be honest, Gene, they were going to give me enough money where I wasn't going to leave. Like I knew I was starting to rise up. I knew I was about to be a VP, AVP, something like that. And I was like, that money, it's hard to say no to. So I was like, I got to get out of here, which is not something that people really say. And
Correct.
so that's how I got into ad sales. I was working with a friend and he said, "Hey, we have this account manager position open at BT. It's kind of cool. I think you'd like it. They're looking for someone with your experience." And so at that time, BET had publications. And so I sold their publications to advertisers. And so that's how I kind of got in. But I did have to sell myself. I did have to show how my my experience in insurance brokerage really translated into advertising sales and why I would be a good fit. And so I had to redo my resume. I had to, speak to people in the industry, and I really had to kind of just connect the dots on like what I did and what I could do. So that was my entree with BET.
Oh, that's super cool. And I think the lesson there is that you can take a position that you're in and not knowing that the skill sets that you're building will be, in fact, transferable. Sales
Absolutely.
is part of that. Yeah. So you're able to, jump from insurance to media, essentially, which then opens another door to a path.
hmm
So where from BET?
So I was there for a few years, and I enjoyed it. And this was when magazines were like the thing, like people enjoyed them. And so from there, I went to, so they were bought by Vanguard Media, which was headed up by Keith Klinkskills and Lynn Burnett, who started Vibe. So it was a great time. It was a lot of energy, but I still wanted to keep it moving, still develop my kind of list of accounts. So from there, I went to Johnson Publishing Company and I worked for Ebony Magazine. And for Johnson Publishing Company was back in the day the premier black owned publishing company. They pretty much mirrored everything around timing. So the setup was very similar. And John H. Johnson, I think he just I think there was just a statue made in his honor just recently, but was an icon, a titan in the media industry. And so worked there for several years. He was not at the helm, it was Linda. But that gave me just another opportunity to kind of sell our culture. And I really enjoyed that, and just kind of translate it to the marketplace as to why it was viable. So for me, I really enjoyed it because I took on the challenge of explaining to people who are not in our communities, who are not in our culture, why we matter, why our dollars matter, why our consumerism really matters. And so I was there for a few years, very successful, had a great time, and then decided to jump to Vibe magazine and kind of, rescue them a little bit. They had new management and kind of rebuild how they showed up in the marketplace, particularly in the Midwest. And then for those who will be very surprised because I am only a mere 31 years old, this was
Right.
when mobile, yeah, thank you. You've been paid well. So this is when mobile sales were starting to happen. So when people started to have the Motorola two-way pager and texting was starting to begin, well, Vibe, because it was a younger audience, was one of the first magazines and first companies really to dive into mobile sales and serving an ad on your phone and or a text message. So again, for me, it was the challenge of educating partners as to why this was a thing. This is what the kids are doing. This is what Black and Brown kids are doing. They're leading the way. Everybody's going to be doing it, and really standing in those spaces with big advertisers like P&G and Miller Coors and different partners, and just making sure that they understand the trends in the marketplace, but then also, where to invest their dollars. And then I left
Uh,
Vibe and I went to, oh, yeah.
well, no, I was just going to say, because it was on my mind, like people don't know that, yes, not only do we sort of stand on our ancestors' shoulders, but like, folks are standing on your shoulders, for example. Like,
Mhm.
here you are early in your career, 20s and 30s, cutting your teeth on media sales,
Mhm.
opening up African American consumerism to Fortune 500 companies. So just want to make sure that I recognize that, applaud you for those early efforts. Like those were sort of pioneering times.
Yeah, they really were, and it was interesting because I was passionate about it. I realized I was just a big fan of us, as a community, as a people. There was so much going on, when you think about 50 years of hip hop and what that looks like, and all the milestones that are now celebrated. We were in the thick of it. And so I remember, particularly for Vibe, the idea around fashion and what we were wearing. And so you think about like Fat Farm or Cross Colors or some certain things. Years later, it was still evolving. And streetwear, which is now everywhere, was nowhere. It was only within our communities or, a younger demographic. And so really explaining that to partners why this is viable is insane, to fast forwarding to now where the Pillsbury Doughboy is rapping. It's just
That's
it
right.
shakes your brain a little bit, because you're just like, oh, okay, now it's cool, okay. Um,
That's right.
so I think, as a goal of mine, it was always to walk out, to wrap my pitch in culture. Because I was like, even if you don't buy me, you're going to learn something today. That was really kind of my focus. And even today, I know we haven't get into what I do now, but even today, I still like now I feel like I serve as a bit of I remind people because now I have partners who live through it who now think the kids today are too much. And I'm like, I can really think of some artists that you were having a good time to that have similar lyrics or similar energy than some of the contemporaries of their time. So, just making sure we're balancing how we evaluate because there's so many insights and so many like ways to build strategy around all the exciting things that are going on, particularly in music.
That's great. That's great. Is there a path for someone in college right now, to maybe who's interested in media sales or advertising or
Mhm.
marketing? Is there a major or background that you think is helpful before we jump into what you do now? Is there something advice wise, a path that you think would be excellent to get started in that industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely mass comms. I think as a career, anything in the communications realm. I think economics, if you have a business kind of lens or a business major, I think that really will just fortify any experience that you bring to the table. A lot of what we do currently is relationship. And so the tenure of your career is really built on who you know. And what you find over that time is the folks that started out with you are now in charge, or the folks that are, or at the table. And so I think that's really where this portion of my career is really kind of blossoming and seeing a lot of fruit. It's because I literally can walk into any room and I'm like, oh, what's up? I know you. And so
That's
it
right.
really aligns with who I am as a person because I'm a very social person anyway. So what we find, and I think the success that I have garnered, that a lot of people garner, is that a lot of my clients are my friends, and there are a lot of great people in this industry. Um, we're not saving lives necessarily, but we are driving um, how people go to market, how people actually walk into a retailer or automotive, a car. And so some of that is a little bit of course correcting how our clients communicate to this audience and making sure there aren't any gaffes or tropes and educating them around that. But some of it is really helping them kind of emboldening what they're thinking about doing or the strategies that they're thinking about taking on. So it's a good time. It's a good career. It's fun. Some
Sounds
people go
like
in
it.
events. Some people go in PR. Like that's also within the space, events and PR. But I think, everyone is a salesperson, in my opinion. Everyone. So I think, a variety of different backgrounds is appropriate.
Yeah, that's great. I think, look, we don't want to minimize the amount of hard work, focus, determination, networking that it requires, especially when you go after these industries that, a lot of people want to be part of. So, of course, you have to have all those things. It's great to
Hmm.
have, credentials, but at the end of the day, I think what I hear you saying is you did well, in each of the industries you were in. You did well in insurance sales. When you jumped over initially to media, you did very well. So that is about excellence, in you pursuing excellence. And you can get to all the, shiny stuff, as I like to call it, um, later, but you have to lead with that focus, determination, and diligence. So, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, you've certainly exemplified that. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you do currently. I knew when you switched over to
Mhm.
Pandora. So, I think what people are hearing probably is a little bit of this like multicultural background, a little bit of, advertising. But can you kind of summarize your role now, what you do, kind of a typical day?
Yeah. So now I head up the multicultural sales and fluency team for SiriusXM Pandora. And most of my day is I manage a team of sellers. And so much of my day is around kind of coaching and stewarding and fighting battles internally for my team, to kind of go out and kind of connect the dots. So I have people who basically serve in the same role that I used to serve in, really building studies and narratives that answer questions, but also evangelize audiences that are misunderstood. So not only from a brown or a black, so not just black or Latino, but also Asian American or API, as well as queer and Gen Z and soon to be Gen Alpha. It's really about untangling misunderstandings or limitations that people have based on their own experience. And so I'm a great party trick at parties because I kind of know a little bit about a lot. And I'm able to kind of just connect the dots on if we have, like next year is an election year. So we have a lot of partners who are going to start investing, trying to garner votes. And so it's really about understanding what's really important to certain demographics, what's different. And so that is really our fluency practice. That's the name of our multicultural kind of marketing insights team is fluency. And so we really put together narratives. And so I help as a head of cultural strategy, I help kind of determine what our roadmap looks like for 2024, what we think is going to be important, and then we flood the industry with those insights. The other thing that I do is I evangelize the value of working with our team in the industry. So, I'm always leading talks or on panels. I was at Cannes, I was at Adweek, but I also do, I'm also going to conferences as well, networking, and just kind of building the brand of Fluency, the brand of SiriusXM to marketers that are looking for the assets that we have.
Wow.
So just that,
So
just out here in
that's
these streets.
right.
Just in these streets talking to these people, you know what I'm saying? Just,
Just in these
but it's a good
streets.
time. But it's a good
Um,
time. And I think what's great about it is now more than ever, since the racial reckoning with George Floyd and some other things, people's eyes are kind of wide open around like, wait, what was that? What was that? When they see different things. Whereas I think before George Floyd, before the pandemic, people were a little dull. They had like maybe blinders on. And so now it's a burst of information. People want to know all the things, and nothing is too small. And because music moves at such a pace with culture, it's a great place to be because we can kind of see through the tea leaves of music what's happening, and we can kind of draw a connection with what's happening in the marketplace, and we can build a study to confirm or validate those things.
Beautiful, beautiful information. I would like to just, yeah, that's huge, and love to kind of move into, because you're part of your job is a great lifestyle. So as let's kind of get to this this really good stuff
Tell me, what
that
are we talking about?
right. This is the
Good
stuff people want to
lifestyle.
hear. How do you live?
Right,
What
what
do
am
you
I?
do? Where do you
Right.
travel? This is the so yeah, part of media. I was a talent agent. I was at a
Yes.
large agency. The entertainment industry. Part of the attraction is the lifestyle of it. So
Yes.
for you, you get to travel often. You mentioned conferences. You're at a senior level. So, in case people didn't hear, you lead a team, and you direct folks at this point. You've earned that, and so that's where you go here. I'll go to all the fun stuff. Don't worry about going to con.
Don't worry about this. This is good.
That's right.
You stay over there. No, I do not do that.
Of course not.
Yeah, so a lot of my job, I think, yeah, so it's a lot of travel. And every sales job is not the same. But I will say that what I enjoy is in this role, I think I become a bit of a cultural psychologist, sociologist. So I am always kind of in markets, just kind of observing and understanding what's different and what's unique. But I do go to like the ANA, all the industry conferences. I'm there. It's where our clients are. It's actually the unexpected place to kind of close a deal. And I think a lot of people, kind of new to the category, this category of business wouldn't understand. But people want to strike deals with people they trust and people they like, and so building relationships with clients is really at like almost 40% of the job, because a lot of times there's so much competition in the market space that having that FaceTime, taking partners to dinners and lunches may seem on the surface very kind of flashy, but it is work. And so it does become the space that people can kind of let their hair down or have a conversation. I know when I first started in the industry, one of the things that I learned was that a lot of the new like assistant media buyers and media planners, they made like their when they started out at the agencies didn't make a lot of money, and so, I was like, well, I have this whole expense budget. Let's go to lunch. And it was really, I didn't feel sorry for him, but I got it. I was like, you need to eat. I need to talk. Let's do this. And so that became a little bit of the exchange that we saw. And so for some people, they find that to be a bit of an ethical something, but nothing was done that didn't have to be proven out. You know what I mean? So even if my partner was like, I like your business, you're my fave, let's do this, they would never put me on a plan, or they would never buy me unless I had like valid kind of talking points or valid elements. So, when you think about the travel and all that, it's very necessary, because you do want to it's a requirement, and I think it's only right to, and it's really an expectation of our partners in many ways, because if I'm going to spend these multi-millions with you, the least you could do is touch down in my city and come see me,
That's right.
and so in that way it's a little old fashioned, but it's real.
Yeah, it's no different from a commercial banking relationship. It's no different
Correct.
from so many of these companies and agencies. It is about relationships, and like you said earlier, people that want to do business with you.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any huge surprise in the people that get multi-million-dollar deals with, sometimes these are not like brand new people that they've just met, right? In any industry.
Correct.
So let's
It's
just
so true. It's so
stop the
true.
cap. Stop the cap.
Let's stop the cap. Oh, come on. You let me use cap in a conversation. I love the kids vernacular. So this is awesome. Thank you.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Speaking of
Yeah.
salaries, I have been a little hesitant in some of my past interviews to sort of bring up the range. I know you do extremely well, but I really want to kind of talk range from maybe starting to where it could potentially go.
Yeah. I think one thing to know, I'm in sales. So, typically on the ad side, within sales, you do start with a base. So that's so you can eat well, you can show up to the meeting in a nice outfit, you got your makeup done, like you can live. But then beyond that, and it depends on the company, but there are quarterly kind of commissions. And so those structures are they vary from company to company. Typically, when you work with a startup, they're a little bit more like your base is maybe like 30%, and then your ability to make money through commission is 70%. But as you get a
Mhm.
little bit more with deeper within your career, it probably changes to 60/40 or even the reverse, like 30% of it is commission, 70% is salary. So it does vary depending on what kind of company, what company you work for and all that kind of stuff. I would say starting out with bonus, you can make, to the mid to um like almost to the twos starting out based on commission. And I think, as you go up, you can imagine that commission goes up well into the mid, to the 5K and on 500K and above. And those are people who maybe are in like leadership roles or head of sales. It really just depends on the platform that you work for. You work for a small platform that say only has, in total annual revenues, maybe like 20 million, you'll get a piece of that. You get a percentage of that. But you might have a little bit more of an opportunity with a company like that that's growing than you would with a company that is more kind of established and kind of has a full understanding of what their growth patterns are. So they have no expectation that they're going to grow, or no forecasting to grow 40s and 20s and 30s% because they're already established. So you will find that perhaps, your ability to make money there may have a bit of a cap compared to, say, a startup or something like that. So in my heyday, like back in the day, there was just more of an opportunity with these like tech startups and things like that. I think now the market has leveled out again until there's an innovation. And there will be an innovation. We've seen so many innovations in advertising in our lifetime. I mean, AI is the one that's most buzzed about right now. I don't think everyone has figured out how to monetize that. But when you think about, I talked about mobile phones, the internet was also something that was fairly new. We have programmatic advertising. So there's so many different layers. And as someone coming in, especially if you're just starting out, the startups and the new kind of innovations are where you want to kind of get your learnings and start to kind of lean in.
Yeah, and to be clear, because I don't want people commenting like, "Oh my God, I can make 200,000." Like, listen, you're not going to be
Okay.
making 200,000.
Hold
Let's be
on.
clear.
There's a lot
You're
required
not.
there. Yeah,
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 you're not going to be
yeah.
22 or
Mhm.
25.
Okay, no. But I
Maybe
think if you start, yeah, if you start out in, say, an ad agency, or if you start out on client services, there's a trajectory to getting there. And I think a new kind of junior to mid seller, based on commissions, can also kind of see that, that total package. So there's a there's a path there that I would say, just based on your ability to work in the industry, the grind that you kind of put in the beginning, you could see a lot of growth.
Yeah, and so at the base level, it is sales. And believe me, in any sales role, you're going to have to produce a a, a great number in order to see some good percentage of that number. So,
That's
you
right.
know, she referenced, some twos and fives and up, yes. But believe me, the what you are producing is probably 10 times that. So just
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
that in mind. And I
yeah.
just
I
want my
think
audience to keep that in mind.
that's true. I didn't mean to oversell it. But you do eat what you kill, in some
Correct.
places. And so,
Correct.
and that grind, how you show up and how organized you are and how you sell, and stay close to your goals. I mean, that's really where you see a lot of the fruit. I also think as a seller, you're a bit of a farmer. So my mindset has been a little zen, and I think it's allowed me to sustain, a little, in a way, just because I've always seen my conversations and my connections as a bit of farming, in that I'm just kind of spreading my seed, just in for future growth in the marketplace. And I think, having that understanding, no connection is a bad connection. No conversation is a bad connection or conversation, and that kind of gets you there.
That's great. And also, so you have the flexibility of working from home. It's probably not necessary, especially after COVID, to be in an office setting, although there is a significant push to return to office. But sales, travel, sometimes that flexibility, I'm sure, helps you as a mother of a young son, in terms of that schedule. So
Yeah.
there are perks, outside of, salary potential, to other things like flexibility. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the flexibility from working from home is great. I think coming out of COVID, more companies, to your point, are definitely asking for people to come back in. I see the value in both. Right now, we're like 2 days in, 3 days out. But
mhm.
as a salesperson, we were always kind of, moving a little bit differently than the rest of the company, just because, particularly because it's so spread out. So, a trip to Burbank is an all day affair. So I'm not going to be in the office. So it requires me to be, nimble in terms of being on the go, having my presentations organized, being able to kind of work from wherever, coffee shops, in my car. I've done presentations in my car on the way somewhere else. I think with this work from home, I think we are grinding a little bit harder than we have in the past, just because, everyone is not caught up to being in the office or not in the office. So your day can truly be stacked with meetings, simply because, some people are working from home and just doing meetings all day, not moving where they're not commuting anymore. And then some of us are out, with clients who are meeting. And so it varies, but it does give that flexibility for me to own my schedule, which I love.
Yeah. Um, Excellent point. I wanted to, before we conclude, and as they say, I give you back your time and your Saturday. Um, you were one of the architects and leaders in organizing the Hip Hop 50th event that was recently. So, just wanted you to kind of comment on that, because that was so recent and historic. Um, Give you a chance to plug your brand too.
Yeah, we started working on this a year ago, a year before it executed, and a lot of projects that are kind of these labors of love that really require an authenticity or an accuracy, that is directed toward the content, typically take a little longer because there are going to be a lot of discussions. Also, hip hop is everybody's music; it's not just black music, so everyone has an interpretation of what 50 years of hip hop means. And so we really had to set time as we started to build the roadmap to really crystallize what hip hop 50 was going to be. Are we doing new school, old school? Are we doing old school? Are we doing, the Diddy era? Like where are we coming up? And then what does this mean? What do we want this to mean in the marketplace? How do we want this to, what's the legacy that we want to impart as we're building this? And so, It was a franchise opportunity, meaning that we had people who could sponsor it. And as we're bringing it to the marketplace, we wanted to make sure we differentiated and make sure whatever we brought into the conversation with this event made sense for us. Like we didn't want to show up in a way where it looked like some of our competitors, and then people would look at us, and then there would be some comparisons. We really wanted to be true to our brand and the music that SiriusXM, Pandora, and how we really show up. So we incorporated a lot of cross-functional teams, our curation team who builds the music and the sound on our various platforms. We included our brand team, our franchise and events team, because we do have that. We do events for clients, we do custom events, and then just some logistical folks internally. And so the way that we came about it was we definitely wanted to celebrate the pioneers, celebrate some of the originators. And so we landed on Wu-Tang Clan and just how universally relevant they are to everybody. And it's so surprising how many people are fans of Wu-Tang. But then, we had some things in the middle that we wanted to make sure of. We want the whole clan here. We don't just want three. We want it to be something that if it's going to be big, that's going to make it big. We wanted to do a give back. So we just didn't want to like celebrate the community and then walk away. So we did a give back with our partner Cricket, where we worked with the Girls and Boys Club of America in New York. And we did a morning of packing backpacks and give backs. We had some of our celebrities on site, our celebrities, meaning our DJs on the platform. And then we also wanted to make it a party that everyone, no matter if you don't even know who Wu-Tang Clan is, because there was a few of those, but even if you don't know who that is, like you wanted to be a part of this. So we made it a bit of a street festival where when you walk through, there were so many different activations for partners, but they were authentic to this kind of retro celebration of Hip Hop 50. And so it was fantastic. It was held we couldn't hold it in Staten Island. There weren't any venues there, but we did have it in Queens, New York. We did we wanted to have a legend open it up. So we did have Flavor Flav come out. We did have Sway come on stage, and Wu-Tang did their thing. We had, a huge audience behind it, but the activation itself was really phenomenal. And we did it the weekend before some of the other big kind of festivals. So it could be kind of a rogue event, could be an opener, and it was a justifiable moment before some of the other events happened. So there was a lot of strategy involved. There was a lot of strategy, a lot of road mapping, and a lot of just IP from a lot of our experts in the company. And then we built the narrative to take it out to partners to make sure it was important. When we started talking about it, it was almost a year before it happened. And believe it or not, a lot of people didn't even know Hip Hop 50 was happening. They didn't know hip hop was 50 years old. And so explaining why this is a moment before it started to gain momentum, that was the sell. That was the pitch. And so that's really where my team kind of leaned in once we got everything in the right space. And we had all hands on deck, and our CEO, Jennifer Witz, came out on the give back. So it was really just a true cultural moment that everyone was proud of.
That is phenomenal. Necessary. So glad that you guys took the initiative to put something like that together. It sounds like just a significant amount of planning. Geez. But such a huge cultural moment. But also, to your point, like recognizing hip hop at 50 is really like a world moment, right? Because that sort of shaped perceptions for people. I haven't been to Japan, but I hear, you could go over there and that was, people's exposure specifically to like African Americans. So it has transitioned far from its start. Suburbia, skateboarding culture, just everything. Hip hop
Yeah.
has touched literally everything. So,
Yeah.
excellent of you guys to put that together, and happy to know somebody I know was right in the mix of leading that. That's phenomenal.
That's awesome. I will say we also did talks in the marketplace too to really validate like the moment that hip hop was. And we did one of women of hip hop and the voice and what because for me and you perhaps I'm pretty sure for you too. Hip hop is poetry regardless of what's being said is poetry, but it's also
That's right.
coming from our people and it's still predominantly from us. And so these are people's real lived stories in many cases. I mean, you can argue that now a lot of it's for the money, but in the beginning at least, a lot of it was real lived stories. And so we would hold talks and panel discussions around the importance of understanding the Black voice, understanding the perspectives that were there. Because what you're not going to do is just celebrate this as a day and walk out and ignore all the things that were said. What you're not going to do is just hip hop to this beat. You're going to really
That's right.
understand what was happening and what was the magic that was happening. And I think that was one that we fought hard for because there were other people who were just like, let's just do hip hop, let's just and we were like, no, you have to pay homage to the legends, the originators, and we have to educate around this. And so we're an audio company and we always talk about the science of audio, and we talked about the true power of a music industry that really had the absence of a Black male voice in its true form, not in a kind of baritone or singing voice, but like spoken word. And the absence of that and how it sprung onto the marketplace through break beats and break dancing and all these different things, and the power that it harnessed for our communities. And we see that, because it gave a voice to the voiceless. And we see that now when you see Jay-Z being a billionaire. You see that now when you see all these artists really making all this money. But it's an art form that no one else can take credit for.
That's right. Period.
Maybe some, I mean, obviously some Afro Latino, and yes, of course, but
Yeah.
no one else can take that from us. And so I think it's a true art form.
It's not up for debate, but yeah, to your point.
Yeah, get out,
You know,
get out of
listen,
here. Get out of here.
exactly. So any last minute sort of general career plug advice for young people in their 30s, people transitioning in their 40s? There's a lot of movement right now. And
Mhm.
any sort of last minute advice? You've given us great information and content around your career, specifically your path. Yeah, again, any sort of last minute advice?
I would say, I think what's truly important when I think about what I did is you gain experience by um, trying new things. And I think, especially if you're younger in your career, I think I'm not saying bounce around necessarily, but I do think that you want to make sure that in every experience, do a bit of an analysis. I do it every year. What am I getting out of this year? What are my goals?
Mm,
What am I trying to accomplish? Am I experiencing new things? Am I experiencing new accounts? Am I bored? Because you need to figure out what to say when you talk to your managers. You need to figure out what you're saying to yourself. And I think what I really love about our industry, particularly advertising industry, is that for the most part, I mean, you do have to show up appropriately and professionally and all the things, but for the most part, you are really allowed to be your true self. And there really is space for all of us in this industry. And so I think, you know, taking the time to really trust your gut and really analyze like what your role is fulfilling in your life, and kind of moving forward that way, whether it's looking for a new job or maybe raising the question internally so that they can, your manager or your bosses can give you that additional challenge. I think is really important to do on an annual basis.
Nikki B, thank you so
Did I do
much.
okay? Oh my god, I didn't have any makeup on today. It's so good, but I hope it was good.
Thank
Gee.
you so much. So I'm going out with a punch. I want you to do that on three with me. Countdown: three, two, one. Later. Where's your punch? There we go.
I thought we punching it. You want to hold it to his face. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, why not? All right. Thank you again, Nikki.